Welcome to M Squared TechCast, a show offering the latest news and interviews with the people driving business, technology, and politics in Michigan. Now, your hosts, Matt Roush and Mike Brennan.
Hey, it's Matt Roush.
And Mike Brennan.
And we're back with another segment of the M Squared TechCast here at PodcastDetroit.com.
And keeping up with our previous theme of cannabis, not that that's what Benzinga does all the time, although it seems like it lately. They had a big event in Detroit in mid-August, and now they have one coming up on October 22nd and 23rd at the Palmer House. Ooh,
Swanky digs.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah.
Amping it up a little bit.
In Chi-Town. And so we have with us Patrick Lane, and he's the guy that puts these shows on, and having produced a couple of events myself, never again. So I
Mike,
you
careful,
luck.
man. We might bring you on.
Oh God, no! That was like we just talked about that earlier. Dave was really excited. He wants to produce an event for IT and the D, right, Dave?
No.
Okay.
No, I've learned from everyone else's lessons.
Oh yes. So anyway, let's talk about your event. You got. Is it going to be pretty much the same theme as the one in Detroit, or it'll be different?
Basically the same. So if anybody came to our Detroit event, and I say anybody, but we had about 450 people show.
Yeah, it was right the first
so
one.
for a market that's a little less mature, it was a really, really good showing. Chicago, we expect double that amount of people, so around 1,000 people.
Well, just the Palmer House alone, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, come hang out at the Palmer House, enjoy yourself for a little while. But it's a cool market. It's the newest state to legalize.
Yeah, January 1st, right?
That's right. January 1st, it comes online. It's the 11th state to do so. A lot of interesting regulations around that, too. So it's a good time for us to be there.
Where are they in their regulatory framework compared to Michigan?
So it's interesting. They've decided basically how they want to tax everything, right? So they have that structure in place. They're also rolling out things that are similar to what Michigan's rolled out in terms of the social equity program, trying to lift up those communities that have been hardest hit by drug-related arrests and crimes, right?
That would be Chicago.
Yeah,
exactly.
The whole mass incarceration thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it goes hand in hand with some of this legalization and rollout. You got to address some of the criminality and what is legal and what isn't anymore. So certainly that's something they're endeavoring to do. One of the things that's interesting that we find is that a lot of the bigger players in the industry have taken some really hard hits lately. And we're going to see some of that unfold on stage at our event. Some of the larger public companies have dealt with federal antitrust lawsuits, and some of our friends, for sure. We've also had a big turn in the markets. It's a terrible time to invest in stocks in the marijuana space right now. But what we'd like to tell people is, hey, it's a long game. It's not the short game, right? Come take a look at these companies. This is still what they call the green rush. Similar to the gold rush. So for sure there's money here. It's a longer play.
Well, if it turns out like the car business, you buy when the companies are in the dumpster sales-wise, and you sell when they're doing great. So.
Pretty much. It's an interesting game, though. I mean, especially these guys who, their revenues are increasing 200% quarter over quarter. It's just a crazy growth market. But the vaping crisis as well has really hit them hard.
I was going to bring that up because you had a couple of vaping folks at your event.
That's right.
Before all this came up. And now we've had our first death in Michigan related to vaping. Now, that's really the black market stuff, though.
It really is. Yeah, that's the one thing. And listen, I'm no scientist, and we don't have any scientists on our payroll at Benzinga, so we're not going to come out and say what is and isn't. But it sure seems to be that these are the illicit market. These are counterfeit cartridges that are being shipped over from even China in some cases. And being peddled to people, and you don't know what's in it. I think somebody likened it to a chemical burn on your lungs. Happening. So it's bad business.
Well, it's what they're cutting it with, from what I've read. They're using some really toxic things to cut it.
Yeah. It's called vitamin E acetate. That's what everybody's worried about right now. And it's an oil that tends to...
Good to take in a pill, not so good to nebulize and inhale.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Not a good idea, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So who's going to come to this conference? What kind of crowd do you expect?
So generally what we do, our main goal is connecting the right investors with really, really well-vetted companies, right? So for our money, we've got a lot of the larger hedge funds, some big family offices and high net worth investors on one side of the aisle. And on the other, we have some really, really well vetted public companies and some private companies that maybe people don't quite know about yet. And that's really our goal, is to find those opportunities and bring them to the fray, right? So, company names like you guys know, Aurora Cannabis, one of the largest LPs, probably one of the most popular companies in the world in that space. And then Trulieve, Cresco Labs, Harvest Health and Rec, Grassroots, some of the ones you'll definitely know.
And Chicago, do they have any particular claim to fame yet? I know they haven't even really officially started. Now, for instance, Michigan is number 2 in medical marijuana. Where does Illinois stand in all this? Do you know?
It's a really interesting question. So get this. When it comes to the markets as a whole, especially the legal markets right now, you look at someone like California or Colorado really leading the charge and have been for years now. We expect by 2023 for the nationwide market to be worth somewhere over $22 billion.
Wow.
And that includes about $16 billion worth of adult recreational use, right? So you can see the market shifting. It's not just medical anymore. And in fact, it will only be a very small percentage of medical by only a couple of years away. But what they're also projecting is that markets like Michigan and Illinois will actually flip that sort of balance and actually become maybe the 3rd and 4th largest markets in the country, surpassing markets like Colorado. Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Yeah, it should be pretty
Cannabis tourism, too. We talked about that before. Michigan already has the tourism thing going. You throw in the cannabis, hey, what the heck, right?
It's not a bad idea. And
there's winery tours, there's brewery tours, there's distillery tours.
You might as well throw a greenhouse in there.
Yeah. Next up, greenhouse tours, right.
So that'll be what Jason's going to invest in next, do you think?
I won't comment on the man's investments, but he would be wise to, I think.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Let's talk more about. So it's going to be panels. It's going to be investor presentations, fireside chats. Same format as what I saw in Detroit. Right?
Yeah, same format. I think the one big difference here is that in Detroit, you're looking at sort of a localized market, right? You're looking at the Michigan market and really all the players here. You'll have some of that in Chicago for sure, given that Illinois is new. But this is really an internationally focused event. You've got investors traveling from Europe and Asia. You've got content, one panel dedicated solely to expansion in Europe. That's really the next big market I feel like is coming online.
I don't know much about what's going on in Europe. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I was going to say, besides Canada, what are the other countries where it's legal in the entire country now?
It's interesting, and they're coming on all the time. And I think it's funny to watch what's happening, here in the U.S., for example, right? We are the next and probably the largest market that will legalize next. And I think if it's not a ballot issue coming up next year, it will be shortly thereafter, right? Yeah. But I think certain countries like Luxembourg and Germany, the UK, I think, is still a far, far way away. I think they're a little bit too conservative to go that route yet.
Them Frenchies are going to do it, right?
Of course. Listen, Germany gets on board. Spain's in there somewhere. France is going to follow suit. Follow suit. So, yeah.
Huh.
Well, and Portugal made everything legal. Right? I mean,
they might as well.
Yeah.
Well, and look at Amsterdam, right? Their coffee shops, quote unquote, have had products in them for quite a while. So.
Yes. I was in Amsterdam 2 years ago sampling the coffee. So,
okay, all right.
It was very good coffee, by the way.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Handpicked by Juan Valdez, I'll bet.
Yeah. Juan was there with his mule, the whole thing, So, you got a question here about don't we wish we could have gotten in an Apple and Amazon? So what should we be investing in right now? I mean, you mentioned some of these companies earlier, but any ones that really stand out?
Yes, and we have to be careful because Benzinga is not a financial advisor. We can't dispense advice.
You're not endorsing, you're just discussing.
Exactly. Here's what I'll say.
An offer to sell is made only by the circular. Right.
Exactly. So I would suggest, even though many of these companies are sort of feeling the brunt of the vaping crisis that is, again, black market and not something they should be dealing with.
Right.
I will say that the safer bets right now are those companies who are what we call in the ancillary space, ones that are maybe not plant touching, maybe ones that are not using vaping cartridges as a large part of their revenue streams, right?
Absolutely.
So those like Akerna, who are selling software, really great company, Just debuted on the NASDAQ a few months ago. Really, really strong play, I think. Many following suit there. Yeah, just check the index. We have one on Benzinga.com, and you should Benzinga.com/cannabis.
Well, we recently had a transport company come on the show here and talk about
Griffin,
their business.
Griffin Transport.
That
Yes.
struck me as a really cool play too.
It
A way to
is.
invest without actually investing in the plant.
And
you
think
know,
about
I mean, so.
think about those guys. Driven Deliveries is a company that we'll have in Chicago, very similar to Ease, if you know them. They're delivering marijuana, and I think Driven now has a policy where they can do it within 24 hours. They'll deliver it to your door.
Okay.
So a pretty strong play.
The Amazon Prime of pot. How about
Apparently.
And we just had Amanda Kugler on talking about her Roots Insurance, and she does
Oh, right,
marijuana
yes.
insurance.
Well, that's what strikes me about this industry is it's like any other industry. It needs everything. It needs marketers. It needs bean counters. It needs security. There's a whole bunch of ancillary services that are going to come on board here with this industry.
Well, and with that, job creation.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's one of the more important aspects of this. And you think about legalization and, other than everybody just having a good time, the reasons why, and you think about all these different people that are now able to do their jobs, and not in any sort of illicit, backdoor, shady alley way, but more so like, hey, I'm an accountant. I just happen to be working for a cannabis company.
Yeah, and in an era when more and more jobs are being eaten up by automation, this is it's never been more important.
yeah, this
Absolutely.
is very hands-on kind of work. I mean, if you're a trimmer, how do you automate trimming, right?
Well, they're looking. They're looking. I'm sure
I'm
there's
sure
ways.
they're looking, but
I'm
it'll
sure
take a
there are
while.
ways. I hope so. I hope so. Good Lord, we don't need more automation in that sector yet.
Yeah.
Well, we've only got a couple minutes left, so let's talk a bit about Benzinga, one of your favorite topics. You guys do, I think Jason told me you guys have 1 million readers a month looking at your marijuana cannabis coverage.
yeah. I'd suggest on Benzinga.com there are about 3 million readers a month.
Wow.
But really, our claim to fame is how he organized our readers, right, and how he gets the word out. By he, I mean Jason. Our licensing model. Our news shows up on Yahoo Finance, on TD Ameritrade. If you have a brokerage account, chances are you're looking at our news. So every month we have over 20 million readers.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not a bad
So
game
he's
to
not
be in.
driving that old VW microbus
I don't
anymore,
think
right?
he's driving the microbus.
Okay.
Maybe a scooter. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, cool.
It's an electric one, I'm sure.
That's right.
And if they want to know more about Benzinga,
Yes, check out benzinga.com/cannabis. You can also check out bzcannabis.com/Chicago for information on this particular event. And your readers could certainly use the code MikeVIP. That's MIKE VIP, all caps, for a 50% discount.
50%. Ooh.
Yes.
Bringing
Haven't
good stuff.
publicized that. You even got Dave's attention. So
Maybe you're an influencer.
that
mean,
could be
I
it.
think you are.
yes.
I think that's a
think you
sign.
are.
Yeah, okay.
What was that again? That was Mike?
Mike VIP.
VIP,
MIKE VIP.
50% off.
bzcannabis.com.
Okay.
Okay.